The road to Georgia 2030 and beyond. Okay, so up next is a great discussion, and it's key and critical for the long-term health of our industry. You know, how do we continue to attract, train, retrain, and retain the workforce that will carry the infrastructure forward for the next decade and beyond? To guide the conversation today, please welcome our moderator, Yulonda Pride Foster from GDOT.
Good morning, everyone. I know me and this panel stand between you and lunch, so. So again, thank you guys for coming out and joining the conversation today to help build better communication amongst our industry personnel. This session, again, is the road to Georgia 2030, training the future infrastructure workforce. So with us on our panel today, we have Mr. Kerry Gore, which is with SAM Survey and Mapping. He joined SAM in January of 2019, where he serves as the utility coordinator for UC Department Manager. Prior to joining SAM, he dedicated 28 years of his life to Georgia Department of Transportation, serving in leadership roles as construction project manager, District 3 manager, and the Assistant State Utilities Administrator. With 36 years combined of public and private experience, Mr. Gore brings a very unique perspective that bridges agencies' expectations with industry execution, fostering in collaboration between GDOT and all of our utility owners. Next on our panel, we have Chris Holdorf. Chris is a utility manager at Vertical Earth. Vertical Earth, which is a company quickly growing in construction with a broad range of projects encompassing over the past 12 months of experience within 5 various states. Chris himself is a third year in his position, and in his role, he oversees utility coordination, and Chris is a graduate of the University of Georgia. He previously has experience with residential construction, and Chris also serves in vocational ministry as a pastor for over decades. Next on our panel, we have Justin Willingham. Justin is currently working for GDOT, and he is a District 7 Utilities Manager. Justin comes to us with a Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering and Technology from Southern Polytech University. Justin has been with GDOT for over 13 years, more than 5 years in construction, and 5 years in traffic operations, and 3 years in utilities. Next, we have, make sure I get my name straight. We have Mark Reida from Cobb County. Mark is the utility permit manager with Cobb County DOT. With more than 20 years of experience across public infrastructure, utilities, and operation, he brings a practical field testing perspective to the utility coordination and right-of-way management. Mark Reida is a utility permit manager, and he holds a bachelor's degree of science in tactile science engineering from Southern Polytech University, and is completing an MBA with a specialization in artificial intelligence at Reinhardt University. And again, we thank everyone for joining us today, and we will dive into our panel 3 discussion on this training for future infrastructure in the first force. So the question is why? So as we all know, Georgia is seeing record-breaking infrastructure and investment, but we're also seeing this silver tsunami, the retiring career veterans, and a desire for that work-life balance is creating massive talent gaps. This panel discussion today is gonna take a look with the stakeholders and you as the audience and really dive a little deeper into this question. So my first panel question is open to everyone to answer. The first is changing the image. The dirty and dangerous stigma of construction still exists. How do we rebrand infrastructure career to the Gen Z as high-tech impact STEM jobs?
I will go ahead and begin since Yulonda looked at me first. I'm kind of offended because, you know, Justin's son, y'all saw the red hair, right? My hair used to be that red. And my nickname was Fire Truck. I guess now it's Silver Tsunami, right? So just a little bit of experience from me. You know, I started in construction about 2.5 years, gosh, over 30 years ago. I just looked 25, all right? But you know, back then it was a measuring tape and a wheel, right? I had people pour into me. They not only showed me how to inspect things, but they also helped me understand why the spec was there and the reasons behind it, right? Well, think about the generation today. We don't have people with boots in the mud, right? We got people with boots that carrying tablets, drones, right? I mean, I remember measuring rebar on a culvert with the measuring tape. Now you can scan it, right? I mean, a lot has changed. So I do have my notes here because if I could keep going and going and going, so to help control time. So here are some ideas that I have. You're going to see that I do, like Dallery, have opinions and ideas. Back then when I was coming along, innovation was not a big word, right? But ideas were, right? And I had people that trusted me with my ideas to allow me to move forward with them. I mean, David Millen, Bill Roundtree were partnerships back in District 3 back in the day, you know, and I think we need to instill some of that in our generation, give them those same opportunities, all right? You know, they want to see, I think, innovation. They want to see their impact. They want to see technology in action, right? I mean, by the time I was in my late 20s, I was able to see and say, hey, I helped build that, right? And most of us in this room probably can say the same, but I think they're hungry for that kind of stuff, right? So what do? Here's an idea. Maybe we look at rebranding or remarketing. I'm just going to say construction, Patrick. Let's just use that term. I mean, it could be any term within your organization, right? I wonder if we rebrand it, tell a different story, maybe call it infrastructure technology or something. You know, make it more of a broad term that captures, you know, that signals STEM, that feels innovative and digital, right? It's broad enough to include utilities, ITS, field work. Maybe we look at things like that. I mean, think about it. Technology has advanced so much. Tablets are replacing plan sheets, right? Drones are replacing survey marks. I mean, there's a lot of things going on there. And so the pace of technology is accelerating so fast. I mean, by the time 2030 gets here, Yulonda, we're probably going to be having another wave of technology. And so not only prepare them for today's technology, right? But we also got to be advancing not just them, but ourselves too. And so that was some ideas I had. I'll let my rest of my team members build on that, or what y'all have, Chris.
Yeah, one of the things is we need to meet them where they're at. And one of the things that we're going to talk about is connecting with them at high schools and getting that exposure. This is a perception problem that affects recruiting. And we're not the first ones to have this. The U.S. military has had to work through this, right? And I can remember seeing commercials for the U.S. military where there's a guy like coming up out of a swamp and guns ready to go, and it's like, come be Rambo. And then a few years later, you see commercials, and they're showing people running a computer. They're showing people doing all this technology stuff, and it's fast-paced environment, and nobody's even got a gun in the commercial. And they realized they had to present this as there's a lot more to it than just what you think of at first. And the same thing with construction. There's a lot more to it. There's so many facets of it. And so presenting that idea to them, and one day connecting with them there. I mean, I hate to say it, how many people have a TikTok? That's where they're at, you know, and engaging and changing perceptions. We're going to have to meet them where they're at and present it as a much broader picture of what it is, as Kerry alluded to.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Kind of goes along with what they were saying, but it's all about marketing. When you look at how we see construction, when I started in construction, I was trained by guys that were been on in their career for a long time, and I'll just say they walked around measuring asphalt and taking up concrete tickets and doing concrete testing, and they recorded it all right here. And I'm still a little old school myself, I guess, but I learned some tricks. But they did it all through notebook. I mean, and nowadays it's different because they walk around. I think that 4M had the picture up earlier about somebody with a hard hat and a tablet. I mean, that's where we're at today. Inspectors don't just walk around with pencils and notebooks anymore. You got, the contractors alluded to earlier, you got GPS and all your equipment. You got tablets that you're walking, and you got to market it that way. You can't just, you got to show a younger generation coming up. They want to know what their opportunity is going to be, and that's what they're familiar with. They're familiar with a cell phone in their hand or a tablet or something like that, and you got to show them how we're utilizing that to the best of their advantage, so they can relate to it. So market it where they understand it. There's still always going to be a hands-on approach, and we can't do away with the experience of what it has been, but you can show them the merge between experience and technology, and it's all about how you market it.
Thank you very much, Justin. I'm going to pose our next question to you for a sake of time. Kind of leads into the next subject. This is the public-private pipelines. What is the most successful model you've seen for the partnership between the high schools, technical schools, colleges, universities, consulting firms, highway contractors, and our government agencies? Mark.
Well, I can answer the high schools, and it's a really good segue into what the last question was. So, how many people in here have kids in the local school systems? Probably a lot. So, one thing that you're going to have in elementary and middle schools is their teachers are going to reach out and say, hey, any of your parents, or they're firefighters, doctors, nurses, they want to come in and have a career day. Well, that's something that I do right now with the Department of Transportation. Cobb County Schools reaches out 2-3 times a year, and I actually go and do outreach with the youth of today, telling them what we do day in and day out. Because remember, what we do, most people don't see. It's all under the ground mostly. So that's something that I do right now, to do an outreach to the youth, to make them excited, to say, hey, do you like getting internet at home? Do you like water? Do you like your power? Do you like your air conditioner work? All that happens because of what we do at work and our partnerships. And do you like working outside? Do you want to be part of that?
Definitely, Mark. Does anybody else want to have a model or program that they'd like to share as well?
Go ahead, Chris.
We work with East Forsyth High Schools just down the road from us, and they have a program that has construction, and having that exposure there, and we bring them out on a job site to get a view, and then having internships, and you're able to, and then there's colleges and tech schools that we bring students in from, and we've been able to bring in some really sharp people through that, and kind of creating that pipeline. Now, there's a reality. Job market is not what it used to be, and it's unlikely that they're going to be with us for 40 years, but they're going to be with us for a time, and they're going to learn, and it's going to improve the industry overall, and we have to be committed to that, I think. And I'll just say, too, I work at a construction company. My first experience with earth-moving equipment was in the ag program at South Forsyth High School, running the tractor with the front end loader on it. And my first experience with 811, Holly, you can appreciate this. The ag teacher was putting up a fence and was using the post hole digger attachment on the tractor and did not call 811 and hit the gas line.
Oh, my. And
evacuated the school. And to this day, I remember that. And I carry that with me. I'm in charge of locates at our... so those lessons learned and the exposure there, it helps, and it creates just the awareness that we've been talking about. And it's not everyone's path is just not going to be a straight line from, okay, hey, I saw this, I did this, I'm going to jump right into this. But that exposure creates the ideas there and can be an opportunity. My path to this company was not, a straight line, but it was where I needed to be. And
Definitely.
Those experiences all came together.
All right.
Yeah. Well, there goes that. No, I had a. I was thinking about recruitment a little bit, and kind of thinking about these high schools, colleges. The career fair. When I was in college, I went to a career fair, and all these different engineering companies, contracting companies, departments, and cities, and they were all there pitching their stuff, and some of them had really good pitches, and some of them knew how to put the pictures out there and show videos and do it just right. But I had the opportunity after I came on with GDOT and been with GDOT for a while. I had the opportunity to go a few times to career fairs back to college, and one thing I remembered there were some things that I wish somebody would have told me about what it was actually like in the field, and or what it was actually like when you work the job. And so that's one thing I tried to take there. So I think it's a lot about utilizing experience and utilizing information. But I know GDOT does it. I know probably most every company or contractor or whatever in here does it. Co-ops, internships, and stuff. That's huge to give somebody a hands-on experience before they make that final decision on exactly what they're going to do and what they're going to commit to.
And I'll add this, most all the companies here that are represented, y'all have, like our company, collaborative partnerships with high schools, colleges, et cetera, right? One program that's successful for us is the Department of Defense Skill Bridge program for military. We have found a lot of success there. And of course, they come in very well prepared, be honest with you, ready to enter the workforce, structured, et cetera. And you get young people, you get older people, yes, so that's been a successful program. But I want to throw out an idea. Like I said, I'm an ideas guy, right? Innovation. We got all these collaborative efforts amongst each company, right? Very, very, that's good. But wouldn't it be nice if we could somehow come together and help shape the curriculum together as a body for these high schools and colleges and everything to help fill that talent gap? That would be so cool if we could figure out how to do that. So that's my idea.
Very interesting. Thank you, Kerry. All right, our next subject is the soft skills gap. So we can teach anyone to operate an excavator, read a set of plans, and review a permit, inspect a job, but can we teach them project management, leadership, communication, the importance of the information in the different agencies? How has your various agencies evolved to include these things? Want to start with you, Mark?
I think as far as filling the technology gap, let me think on that for a moment. So I think filling a technology gap, we have to look at what technology is currently out there and how we're harnessing it and adapting to it. I'll give you a prime example. Yesterday I was at the Microsoft headquarters about a couple miles from here. And one thing I was looking at was how we can use AI Copilot to build agents to look at augmenting our permitting system to help our customers, help our other partners. Looking at some of the requirements that are out there on NICS standards for the UAM. So if a question comes up from a permittee, say, hey, what's the setback need to be at this facility because of these stipulations? Having an agent real time on our permitting system that you can just ask. That's not just a chat bot, that's actually pulling records back from the large language models and giving you real time, up-to-date information from a technology standpoint. So that's one way we're growing, and that's something that we're going to try to bring to the table for everyone that's permitting in Cobb.
Okay. Anybody else want to stab at that one?
Yes, I'll go ahead. So, yes, technology has definitely changed the way we communicate, right? Dashboards, teams, you can name it, right? But right here in my notes, here's what I put. You can't communicate what you don't know, right? I just recently, not too long ago, hired a person. She's doing a great job. Couldn't be prouder, right? Technology, she's got it all. And what I'm trying to do is blend the two. You remember I told y'all I had people pouring to me early on and tell me not just how to inspect, but the reason right? Why do we have the policies? Why do we have these things? What are the reasons? What's the logic behind it? This is where we are. And combining those two things together. And so this is a Kerryism. If Patrick's in here, he'll appreciate that. I established this for me personally years ago, the wow factor. Okay? You're probably like, what in the world? Well, my philosophy for me personally, and I try to relay this to people, is learn your job, know your job, deep dive that thing a mile. When you go into a meeting, you can talk professionally, intelligently, with the details about your job. And when you leave that room, people go, wow, they know what they're talking about. And that encompasses knowing policy behind what, your decisions, et cetera. So that's just Kerry's way of, I'm weird like that, right? And then of course, another thing that I try to portray is, and this is scriptural, slow to speak, quick to listen. Those that know me, I'm the opposite of that, right? Okay? I'm near 58 years old, and I still have to remind myself of that. Thank the Holy Spirit doing that. But I still fall victim to that. I know my faults. But I appreciate y'all's patience with me over the years. But there again, teaching that's a soft skill, understanding each other's business practices. Somebody said it earlier in one of the panels. That's how we build collaboration, partnership, knowing each other's, where the sweet spots are, right? I'll call it that. But that's my add-on.
Thanks, Kerry. And definitely to take us into the next, it's important that, yes, we need these digital devices, but we also have to be able to teach the next generation how to step out of the devices and communicate, because we've said the word over and over here. Communication is key to every aspect that we do in building better. So it's definitely these kinds of gatherings help to be able to continue to bridge those communication gaps. So our next one is the digital laborer, and I'm going to direct this one directly to Chris. 2030 laborers isn't just swinging a shovel. They're managing tablets, the robotics interface. Are your current training programs teaching digital construction, or are we still back in the 1990s?
I'm going to borrow Kerry's notes. No. So, to answer your question, I'm going to answer this real specifically, and then I'm going to back up for a minute and try to bring some things together. Yes, there are programs that are incorporating like these GPS models. Yes, the engineering, especially at tech school levels and university level, kids are getting exposed to it, some in high school, but then at those levels, they're being exposed to it more. So that is going. It needs to be broader as far as what they're interacting with. But I think, too, backing up a little bit on the question itself, there's an assumption in it that these kids coming along need to be taught technology. The reality is it's native to them. And us in the room, if you remember a phone on the wall, then you have to be taught, I have to be taught technology, right? It's these kids. My son is better with technology than I am, and he has to show me how to do stuff. It's native to them. So as far as using a GPS, maybe they haven't seen it before, but their experience with this broad range of electronics and technology, they can pick it up pretty quick. It's our older guys that we have to struggle with to use the GPS thing. But here's the thing that I think we want to bring together. The first panel about the GPS models that we were talking about and the value that brings to construction, and we were talking about the second panel about the utility strikes and how we can do utility relocation. This is where our industry needs to be headed. We as a company, we do the GPS rovers and we provide those and help out, staking and everything like that, and it expedites the process. There are so many of the utilities that are not using anything like that, and they're getting out there. We talked about the tape measure and a wheel. There are some of them that get out and unload the boring machine and, all right, send it. They're not even doing anything else. So utilities, and we've proposed this idea of utilities need to be installing using GPS equipment. This is where we're at in 2026. And not only that, but when it gets installed, we need accurate data, longitude, and elevations. And then those need to be provided into that map that we talked about. So then when we go to design, we have 3D models that can be designed around. Then when that comes to the contractor, when that gets to us, we have the 3D model of the job site, but we have a 3D model of the utilities. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to put that in our dozer. We're going to put that in our excavator. And when you get near to a utility, when we get near that Comcast fiber, bells will start going off. Warnings will start going off. Terry, I can take the AT&T line and put it in there, and I can prevent the excavator from digging through that line. It will not do it. This is where we need to be headed. And we have the excavators and the dozers to do that now. What we don't have is the data. And that's where we need to be headed. And that's where, so as we look at our programs as a whole, we need to be looking toward that goal and pushing the industry that direction. And so we have some training methods that are moving that direction, but we need to push it further.
Thank you, Chris. I'll take one more on that, and we'll go to the next question if anybody wants to add. Justin, you look like you.
I could throw in some stuff there, and this is going to probably kind of lead into some of the next question. But when you have that 3D model, we're looking, in utilities, we want as much information as possible. It helps in coordination for pre-construction, construction, any phase of a project, conceptual. We need information. You need information. Contractors need information. Utility owners need information. We all need as much information as possible to make the best decision. And so, I was thinking, Aisha did a little presentation at the GUCC a year or two ago about the 3D modeling, and I know we've got some projects. I'm excited about one coming up here in D7. We're having a PERT meeting here within a month, and an in-person one where we're going to be able to see new technology and see how we're bringing that to pass. And so I'm excited about that, because the more we bring that out, the more construction uses it, the more likely, the safer, the more efficient, the more cost effective. There's just so much into it. So yeah, we got to keep progressing.
Thank you, Justin. Definitely. All right, we're going to move on into the next, retention versus recruitment. So we all know, I'm sure we've all experienced in the industry, it's nothing to hire a 20-year-old. The challenge is being able to keep them in the industry for the next 10 years. What are some of the non-negotiables for the 2030 workforce, like flexibility, technology, career growth, succession planning, that you all envision will be needed?
I'll go ahead and take this one real quick too, since I was heading that direction anyway. Recruitment, and I was actually thinking about the same quote. Nick stole my thunder in his keynote, but the same quote that Henry Ford had about coming together, staying together. It's kind of the same concept in recruitment and retention. Recruitment is progress. When you get them on board, that's progress. But keeping that knowledge, keeping that experience that you invest in is success. And so I think one thing about it kind of goes back to a question we had a while ago about interacting with the younger workforce, and you bring them in through internships, or you got a younger workforce. And I saw it firsthand yesterday. 4M came in and had some one-on-one time with my team in D7, and going through some of the software stuff. I saw the young ones of my team, and all the team was excited about it. You see those with experience, and they're recognizing the value. They're recognizing, okay, I can use this information. But then you got the young ones, buddy. They're not just recognizing the value. They're excited. They're looking into the future, like, we can do this and we can do that, and we could accomplish this with that. They got vision, and that's part of retention. We've got to get the information out there to those that we are recruiting to let them know there is ways you can utilize technology. There's ways you can utilize these things that you're interested in. So part of retention is finding what are they interested in. And what they're interested in is not necessarily what I was interested in coming in 13, 14 years ago. But it is evolving and is growing, and we've got to find ways to get on their level and keep them interested and engaged.
Definitely. Go ahead, Mark.
So one thing that we've been able to accomplish at Cobb County is give people kind of a career path. So a couple of years ago, we had to start locating all of our low voltage traffic control infrastructure and add a couple member codes to our 811 account. And what that made us, what we were able to do is we were able to hire an entire new department of locators, half a dozen people that all they do is that's their specialty for all of our facilities. And it was able to give us a building block career path for our utility inspectors in the department. Again, we hired a whole bunch of new people, and we're able to show, hey, you're going to be able to progress through different steps, and there's places for you to go in our department. Now, that being said, over the past 4 years, 30% of my inspectors have retired. And then in the next 2 years, 30% of the group again is going to retire. And every inspector that we've been able to promote has been from this new group we've created. So again, we're showing that there's a future for a lot of the younger people we're hiring, and there's career path and growth for them. And I'm very blessed. I have one of the best groups I've ever had in all the years of my professional career, and I absolutely owe them everything.
Awesome.
You got anything?
We've alluded to this a little bit about the job market's not what it used to be, and retaining is difficult, and it's going to have to change for the younger generation, especially to work hours, and work-life balance is a big deal now. And in construction, there was sort of a badge of honor for the guys that worked 70 hours a week or things like that, and that's not sustainable, and that's not going to be the path forward. And so I think we need to elevate the idea of a good work-life balance is one of the things.
And I'll add to this. So when I interview people, here are typically 3 questions I typically see. Will I grow? Right? Will I be heard? And does this work fit into a sustainable work-life balance? Now, we can build on those all day long, talk about, hey, what's the salary expectations, this, that, and the other. But, one thing I try to portray, what did I say earlier? I think the Gen Z, my son, he's one of those, my son-in-law, they want to be impactful, okay? Success is good, right? But success to me is about the individual. I want to promote significance because that's about others, right? It's about not just customer service. It's about if I can, and that's impactful, right? These people I mentioned earlier in my career, they were significant to me. That's the role that I want to play in a Gen Z environment and beyond, right? And if we come in with a mindset of significance, success is going to follow, right? I'm not worried about that. But just think how Sam can benefit a utility industry, and you can benefit me, and GDOT. We benefit each other when we do that holistically, right? And come together. So I don't know if that resonates to you or not, but boy, I think that would be a great way to show impactfulness to the next generation. So, thanks.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, so we have 2 more questions. So these next 2, want to take 1 answer from each panelist, from 1 answer per question from the panelists. The next one is scaling for growth. With Georgia's populations booming, do we have the physical training capabilities, the labs, simulators, equipment, on the job, in the field, office environments to meet this 2030 demand? Or do we need to pivot towards a more virtual, augmented reality training? Who'd like to have that one?
I'll start off. Everybody's looking at me. We should have swapped seats. No, I'm just kidding. I'll try to make this short. I think the answer is yes and no. I think we have it for sure, but I think it's going to have to be a combination thereof. It's not a one-size-fits-all, okay? Everybody learns differently, right? I mean, some learn better virtually than others. I'm more hands-on, been like that my whole life, right? But I've adapted to the other means and methods. So it's a combination thereof. So here's some ideas. Maybe, micro-learning, 2 to 10 minute modules that can be mobile friendly, right? Do these simulations, these reality, virtual trainings, maybe to accelerate learning, but then follow it with hands-on, a learning environment. Because you got to understand, we can't teach, real world risk, soil conditions. I mean, you still gotta go evaluate risk. You can't virtualize that, right? So there you go. So next.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, and our last question is wisdom at risk. So with the Silver Tsunami, we have inspectors, coordinators, people from all levels of this field that are retiring. So the question here is, how are we capturing their institutional knowledge before they leave the building? And I'll open that up to whoever would like to share.
You want me to grab it? Anyone have a burning desire?
You start down there and I'll end.
So as I said, we have massive retiring, which causes turnover in my group. And we have a plan for bringing people up, and today's a perfect example. Whenever there's a large infrastructure job or a restoration job, I make sure that my management team brings in the inspectors from other areas of the county, and we try to have as much on-the-job training, that transfer as much as possible. Because there's nothing like being on the job site and showing, hey, this is, when you see this is a prelude to this happening. And the on-the-job training, making sure that you actively involve, no matter how busy you are, if there's a major project going on, bringing in the younger staff and having them shadow your senior staff to transfer that knowledge. Because there's nothing like on-the-job training. You can learn so much from a video, so much from a book, but standing in the ditch, looking at it, and seeing it with your own eyes, you remember that.
Definitely. Go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, as far as capturing the experience of those silver tsunamis before they leave is very, very important. I mean, we utilize technology to capture, document, record whatever the amount of knowledge that you can. So I would say we got to be innovative and find ways to get them to share that knowledge, retain that knowledge, and hold on to it even after they're gone for the up and comings. But I would say, or there's always the option of turning them into a Kerry or a Raymond or Dowry. Bring them back.
Thank you very much, Justin. I think we have to be willing and open on both sides, as the newer generation coming in and as the older generation. We have to be able to receive from each other in order to truly grow and make this work. And so before we go, I'm going to open the floor to the audience if they have any questions.
May I share something?
Can I open the questions?
We're over
first?
time.
Can we do questions first, Kerry, and then we'll let you share.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Nick.
Kerry, you want to have your moment? No, I'm kidding. So I think I heard a question about soft skills, leadership, project management, kind of the things that are less technical but necessary for future leaders. Maybe I missed it, but I was trying to hear from the panel of what thoughts you guys had on things that you can do to help better equip the next generation with those soft skills that many of us have kind of developed along the way.
I think you can give them experience. In other words, put them in an environment where they have the opportunity to speak get them an environment where they're comfortable with maybe a small group or something like that, and then give them the opportunity to present. But they got to get comfortable with communicating and feel confident. So instill in them the confidence of that their thoughts matter, and give so a combination of training and experience and putting them in an environment where they feel comfortable to branch out of their shell and do that. So that's one thought I had.
All right, I'll go. I actually have that in my notes, Nick. Okay. Just from live examples, I told you I just recently hired a new coordinator. Part of her, we develop individual development plans, right? Soft skill is not a one training and you're done. It's a continuous thing, right? So how do we continue that? Shadow meetings. Come in, observe, learn, understand. Of course, teaching policy and understand how to support your decisions. Pairing, you mentioned it earlier, pairing with senior staff, which, she's paired with me, and so pouring into her. And just utility related, or whatever subject you're representing, whether it's utility or construction or whatever, include them in those meetings. And of course, and encourage them to lead the meetings. I have personally went and said, all right, you're going to lead the meeting. What's your strategy? What's your approach? How are you going to tackle it? Right? And it gives me a coaching opportunity, right? And then when we have meetings, I don't just have a meeting and then we go about our business. I'll reach back out to that person and say, all right, let's debrief. What did you learn? What did you pick up on? Because I'm requiring this person, as well as many other people, to keep their own personal notebook, right? Because you'll come back to that notebook. So that's my add-on, Chris.
The debrief is so helpful. These skills are picked up so much through observation and from seeing this employed, what good leadership looks like, what good project management looks like, and then having a conversation afterwards. Okay, what could we have done better? Why do we handle this way? I can remember I had a very tense conversation with one of our superintendents, and he walked out of the room, and I turned to the guy that I work with. I said, okay, here's why I handled it this way. I didn't back off here. I backed off over here. I tried to compromise, but I didn't back off here because we have to do this. And helping understand why we handle those situations the way that we do.
Another key point, though, is you got to get the new young, the youth, that's right, the young people in the door in the first place. So one area of opportunity, we used to look back at job boards. We used to go to our counselors when we were in high school. Kids don't do that anymore. So from an industry standpoint, we're talking about how do we get these young people in this industry, and I think we need to think more outside the box and go to maybe social media, have these internships, co-ops. That's the critical key point to getting kids in the door, and until they apply, if they don't know the positions out there, they can't be on that job site. They can't shadow you in an office to learn how to read plans. So it's all about social media, getting these high schoolers into the local industries, whether you're power, water, gas, telecom, and I understand there's a lost leader to that, because you're not going to get the production you're going to expect because they're learning. But if we don't take those hurdles and put forth the effort and invest in them, they're not going to be here to step into our shoes when we leave.
Thank you, definitely.
I hope that was the question.
And I think in general, what we're saying is we have to be able to meet the next generation where they are and be open to train in various different ways, kind of get out of our box and be willing to open our horizons so that we can meet them where they are with the technology, as well as them being open to receive on the soft skills side of what we have to offer. And I think together we can continue to bridge this gap and have what we need in the industry. And thank you very much. I appreciate everyone speaking on the panel, and I think it is time to turn it back over to let you all get a chance to eat.